Thank you for watching this video on the capital planning tool that's provided by Clear Insight on the Board platform. Today we're going to walk through what the screens and the back-end pieces for the module look like to give everyone a familiarity with it. At a high level, the capital module has a number of screens where we can set first the asset categories, screens where you can enter new requests for different asset purchases or capital projects, and then review and approval. We're also going to look at the entities that are set up with their relationships among each other, the cubes holding the data, and any processes that are involved in the module. When you first open Board, I'll use the thick client as an example. This can also be done over the web just as easily. I want to open the capsule. So here I'm opening the capsule for the capital module. When the first screen that comes up is our requests screen. Now we can also look at a couple other screens. So let's look at start with the categories screen. With the categories screen, we're looking at, for each of the different asset types here, we have vehicles, property, equipment, and goodwill. What's the useful life in years? What depreciation method do we want for that particular category? What's the depreciation account, work in progress account, asset, accumulated depreciation, and we can have a description for them as well. So this lets us do both expense planning, so we'll calculate the depreciation expense, as well as calculation of balance sheet implications. So if we have particular assets that are maybe purchased but don't go into service right away, well the value can sit in a particular work in progress balance sheet account before it moves into an asset account, and then as the asset is being depreciated, we can also see the implications in the appropriate accumulated depreciation account. And these are all live cells. I can click in these things. I can change different depreciation methods by selecting something different from the drop-down. I could also put in links to other valid account combinations, so I can control what accounts are available in each of these drop-downs. But this is more of an admin thing to set up once to say vehicles are handled this way, property is handled this way, equipment, goodwill, and any number of categories can be set up this way. So now we're going to go back to our requests screen. And this requests screen really provides both the requests piece as well as a review and approval piece. So folks can come in here and they can add in new lines to this asset register we see on the top left. Here we're going to walk through two examples that we have already in the system, the fleet trucks for site work and limos for management. So fleet trucks for site work, we want to request 15 of them. The unit price is $12,000 for a calculated cost of $180,000. Now maybe I realize, you know what, I made a negotiated deal on the set, so I can say the whole thing was really $160K. So notice the $160K, I entered that on top of a number that should be calculated. So by using the reverse algorithm feature in Board, you can let people overwrite numbers that are normally calculated. And that uses that reverse algorithm to say which numbers should be changed based off of that high-level entry. So because I typed in 160K, it knows it's 160,000 of the cost. It also knows that unit price is what should be adjusted. So it adjusted the unit price correctly so that the unit price times my quantity is still at that cost of $160,000. And showing these two cells in a red color just to identify them as values that have changed. When I click on my Save button, I'll see those values go back to black, meaning they're saved back to the system. We also have a salvage value, so how much would each of these trucks be worth when we finally sell them, when we're going to purchase them. By clicking on Purchase, I can get a nice drop-down of all the valid dates. Here we're choosing a particular month for when these things are purchased. Similarly, we can pick in service month, and I get the same selection. I can control what selections are showing up here. And I can also have a little mouse over items here. So here, because this is a vehicle type, the mouse over is saying this asset expires after 3 years in 2020-02. So I can also have a justification, and I can include attachments of a number of different types. Here we're using an attachment of a PDF, but it could also be Excel, Word, PowerPoint, image files, really any type of file that you're, not any type of file, but most type of file attachments are supported. And I can focus these other pieces on a particular line item here. So maybe I only want to look at the fleet. So I'm going to select that. I'm going to mark that as for selection. And now I see the full text of that comment. So there's a comment that's been entered just for this particular asset. I also see the depreciation schedule by year calculated out for this particular. It's rolling up to the asset type, or probably the asset category type by year. And we also see that across the different accounts, and a nice little chart for the depreciation expense over time to the asset expiry. Anytime I click my Save button, it's going to recalculate the depreciation. So because we made a change to the underlying cost there, you'll see all the numbers change. So in that few seconds there, it did all the recalculations for all the different accounts and refreshed the screen for us. So the nice thing is that's pretty much all of the screens that a user would need to interact with to set the asset categories, enter asset details, review asset details, and you can even do approvals through here as well. So now we're going to switch gears just a little bit. We're going to look at the back end of things. So now I'm going to, because I'm in the thick client, I'm going to open up the ribbon along the top here in the editor mode, and I want to look at the entities. So for this particular item, there's not a lot of entities that we need. So we need to know the asset, asset type, depreciation method, and a number of different accounts. And these accounts really are sets of what accounts are applicable for the respective operation. Now if we look at the relationships, I'll give it a little bit more context. So now I click on relationships. Particularly I'm going to look at the graphical view to make it a little bit easier to see. So for every asset's going to have one asset type. And based on the asset type, we're going to know the depreciation method, the accumulated depreciation account, depreciation expense account, asset account, and work in progress account. So the nice thing is we're just creating one asset and we're picking the asset type. And just by doing that, we already have all the relationships to the different pieces for that new asset. And now that lets us look at the next step, which is cubes. So now if I click on my cubes, I'm going to see a list of all the cubes that I have access to in the solution. I can pull any of these different items into a particular layout and do any kind of analysis I want on these individual pieces. So maybe I want to do something with the life, or I have the quantity, the unit price, how much salvage, how much this is going to be useful for, or how much I can sell it for when it reaches its expiry period. A lot of these are the asset properties. So these really are agnostic of a period. And when we scroll down a bit, we're going to see, well, there's certain ones that have impact in the financial statements. So the depreciation expense, work in progress, asset, depreciation, net asset value, those would impact your financials on a period by period basis. So those are all available. And just some administration cubes as well. So these are all the cubes that are needed in this module. Now there's another couple of processes, so we can look at those in turn as well. So here I'm going to look at my process modeling section. Already in the capital database. There's only 4. I want to do a backup, and I want to calculate, or I want to do some seeding of something that may be brand new. All right, let's look at the calculate one, because this is what runs when you click on the save button from that main page. So it's going to save the data entry. It's going to calculate the expiry, the asset activity, really all the different pieces that you'd expect. And the nice thing about the way that this is laid out in the procedure is, without even going into the details of each of these actions, you can see generally what this is doing at this summary level here. So now we'll go back to the main screen, and just to recap, so from this one screen here, you can enter the different details for an asset that may or may not get approved. You can see the implications of that both visually and through tables. You can add commentary and supporting information, and you can do any kind of calculation necessary for this. So hopefully this has been helpful to explain how the capital module from Clear Insight works. And this is also very highly customizable, So this would be something that we would work with any client to customize for their particular purposes in their particular environment. Thank you for watching.